Welcome back to another episode of You're Built for This, where we pay homage to business owners and entrepreneurs early on in their journey. We take a deep look at where they've been, watch what they're doing to see exactly where they're headed. So today we have CEO and founder of FastDrop, the first, I believe, exotic feeder delivery service. And I'm excited to have him on. How are you doing today, Issa?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining. Before we get to Fast Drop, and like I mentioned, like in our message before, like I think this is a definitely a unique, business. So I can't wait to dive in deeper there. But first, I want to hear a little bit more about you and like kind of your journey and where you're from and all that good stuff. So I guess we can just start there. Like, where were you born and raised? How did you grow up? Just so I can get a sense of who you are.
Okay, I was born in Washington, D.C., nation's capital, but I was raised in Prince George's County. I guess we still hold the title, the richest Black county in the U.S.
Yeah, PG County. I know.
Yeah. We're all very proud of that. So I was raised there, typical middle-class family, and then I went to school in Baltimore City at Morgan State University. And a lot of who I am today, I credit to going there.
Yeah. So was that always a dream of yours to go to an HBCU? Like in high school, just kind of thinking of like, when you're applying to colleges and stuff, like you're down there by UMBC. You got so many other like, Ivy League type institutions like Johns Hopkins, like all these particular universities. What made you decide that, I want to go to an HBCU? What was that thought process like for you?
I'm not gonna hold you. I did have to have a real radical change of thinking before I came to Morgan. Originally, I thought I was going to go to a PWI. Thought I was going to go to like a liberal arts institution. It was just what I was told growing up, and like the HBCUs that I highlighted and really promoted were like Morehouse, Clark Atlanta, or Howard. Morgan. To be quite honest, I was told all my life it was the 13th grade. So I never had any indication that I was going to go. Yeah, people just, where I'm from, everyone just kind of looked down on Baltimore. So it was a change before I went there. And what led me to going there was I was attempting to study engineering at a lot of PWI institutions. So I applied to UMBC. They said no. Ironically, I applied to Howard. They said no. I said I could do biology. And
that was my major.
That was your major? Okay.
Yeah, but doing nothing in that field now. So good thing you didn't major.
It's ironic because I majored in electrical engineering and now I'm trying to build our own business so I can stop doing that. But then when it came to Morgan, I originally went there because I was like, okay, this engineering isn't working out for me. How about I do math or actuarial science? And Morgan is the only HBCU and the only institution in Maryland that has an actual science program, which is like actuaries and deals with life insurance, the insurance calculators. And it was a prestigious field. So I went there and eventually I had a study abroad trip. I went to India and I came back and I was like, you know what? I'm going to switch to engineering.
Yeah, so backing up a little bit further, so in high school, I know your goal was to go to PWI at that time, and you weren't thinking about Morgan State. But what about electrical engineering? Had you always had a passion in like the STEM field, or was it something else? Like, was your dream, career something entirely different when you were growing up in PG?
I wish I could tell you I had the quote unquote. I always had the perfect mindset. Like I always was on the ball.
Yeah.
My dream in high school was like, maybe I'll go to community college. And if I'm shooting for the stars, maybe I'll go to UMBC and major biology. And just maybe I may become a vet. But I really wasn't thinking about any of this in high school. It was actually a professor of mine back then who pulled me to the side and really started working with me. He was like, hey, you ever thought about like engineering is what I majored in? And his name is Mr. Dulce. I have to give him credit for it. He's the reason why I eventually majored in electrical engineering because I looked up to him. He was a Filipino dude. It was ironic. And he used to always bring me around the ropes and like, he would just teach me stuff. So I looked up to him and I was like, you know what? I'm going to major into it.
Yeah. And so now you're talking about your study abroad trip when you were at UMBC. I'm not UMBC, at Morgan State.
Yeah.
And I saw also, you can allude to, the internship or the study abroad trip a little bit more, but I also saw that you were able to land like these crazy internships like NASA, JP Morgan, Intel, like you were working at some like top companies while you were in college and interning. Like, so what was that process like at Morgan State in regards to getting involved in some of these internship programs and then also that study abroad trip and how that kind of shaped you?
And if you heard the saying, ignorance is bliss, it was just ignorance. And then in addition to the fact I went to Morgan, I have to give all the credit to like Morgan and the type of family atmosphere that I experienced there. I had no idea. I thought my experiences in college was the norm for PWI. And I always had this idea that, oh, I'm behind, because I didn't have a typical experience with school. I always felt bad. I was like, oh, I'm not really a great student. What's it called? I aren't doing these life-changing and world-changing things like the other students at PWIs are. Yeah, I had a very out there mindset. So every time an opportunity popped up, it was I said yes to it. So when it came to India, it was I go to Jaipur, Rajasthan, which is up in the north west region, right? And I study Hindi for the summer. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And they paid for it and everything else. And then from there, I met someone there. I made a friend, and he was a part of another program with the U.S. State Department of State for CLS. And he said, I think you should study that. It's critical language scholarship. And he was like, go get a part of that program and learn a different language. So I was like, I want to learn Urdu. Urdu spoken in Pakistan, in parts of Afghanistan, and parts of India, and spoken mainly by the Muslim population. So I was like, you know what, I could do that. And so I applied. Him and my mentor from my previous India program wrote recommendation letters. I got accepted to that. Wow. Then, and all of this, my school was really pushing. Like every time I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, nothing's ever on the website. I've learned this at HBCUs. You have to go talk to people if you want an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think a part of that ideology of, oh, you have to talk to somebody for an opportunity kept leading to other opportunities, because I would always talk to someone and you're like, you know what? I like you. I'm like, I don't know why, but okay. Yeah. And that it just started forming a spiral, because in my experience, I've met people who were like, to be quite honest, they were like, oh, I haven't met a lot of Black Americans who have your background. So they become curious. They want to know more. Then they ask more questions. And then they're like, hey, do you think you will be interested in doing this? And I always try to stay in that type of mindset of, in stereotypes, Black people don't do X. So I'm going to do X. And then it makes other people think, oh, well, this is interesting. Why do you do this?
Right. And like that experience in India, I want to like talk about that a little bit. And like, how, I know you were able to, figure out like that you wanted to learn another language and all that. But like, how did that change your perspective, like going to another country? I don't know, like, what the environment was when you went over there, but how was that able to kind of reframe your mindset when you had to come back to America? And like, what were some principles that you took from that trip and apply it to what you do today?
To be honest, it was my first time outside of the US, really. And there it really forced me to really understand the aspect of community and how it shapes people. Because there, I'm not Indian. I've never really interacted with the South Asian community extensively to know much about India. I was reading newspapers, but I practically needed help for everything. Yes, they were colonized by the British and they speak English, but day to day, everyone speaks Hindi or the native language. So I needed help, and I needed help a lot. So it always put me in mindset, I never really believed, I know in the States sides, we always have this, I pull myself up from my bootstraps. I didn't really have help. I did it. But there, all of that went out the window. If I said stupid stuff like that, I would have just been like, oh, okay, you can do it yourself then. Good. But there, I needed help shopping. I needed help finding where my house was. Basic things I took for granted. I needed help just to relearn how to live again. So that changed my perspective. I was like, okay, I always felt like this community bond, and it made me appreciate my community back home a lot more, particularly being Black. There, ironically, it was the first time people would stop and just stare at a friend. His name's Akil. And look, and he had locks, and they would just stop staring and come up to him and be like, how did you do your hair like this? Twisting motion with their hands. And I was jealous. I was like, damn, I've never met anyone who really loved my Blackness in an experience I never experienced before. Yes, there's a lot of anti-Blackness in South Asia, but there are aspects of love for us that I have not experienced in the US. And I kept having conversation because of the community aspect and that I kept having more conversations with people. I was talking to my host family, and they were like, well, they were actually advising me to study engineering. They're like, engineering, you can build things. And they're like, you can shape the world how you want. And I was like, you know what? I am going to be an engineer.
So that was while you were at Morgan State after you had claimed the engineering major, or you hadn't decided on what major you wanted to embark on?
I was at Morgan State. I was studying actuarial science during this summer period, but I didn't switch yet. When I landed back in the States, I went to my department. I said, I'm switching out. I'm going to engineering. And I was doing excellent in my last major. They were just like, why are you going to go? And I was like, it's my calling. And
and how was that transition for you? Like, was it tough? Like, as far as like, it's still like what you were doing before engineering was still in the science brain. Like, you still had a little bit of like mathematical reasoning and a lot of stuff that can be transferable to engineering. But like, how was that switch for you? Like, were you able to just kind of hit the ground, running as soon as you made the switch, or did it take a little bit of time for you to ramp up?
And something you'll realize about me, I am quite rarely ever able to hit the ground running.
Hey, that's honest, man. That's honest. Yeah.
I hit the ground. I definitely hit the ground several times.
Yeah.
I just had to push myself back up. It was one of the hardest transitions of my life. I went in there, and the fact that a lot of engineering classes, they combine science, and they have it, but it's a lot of math tied into it that I was not expecting. And then so it was that, in addition to, I always had labs where I had to physically build things. And if the thing did not work, there wasn't like, well, it just doesn't work. It was, no, you're going to fail this class.
And for whatever reasons, HBCUs don't play. Like, there's no like, I've had situations where I've like been on the brink of like, like passing a chem class or whatever the case may be. And it's like, no, you're not going to get cut a break. Like, you take it again next semester, or that's it. Like,
I guess I've had courses where I literally had a 79 and I begged, or a 69 and I begged, hey, can I come over? And they just look, no, why would I do this? And I feel like going to HBCU, regardless of the ethnicity of my professors, because I would always try to, I'm not going to hold you. I played that race card every single time to try to get a grade. And every single time they looked. And that is what, because you're Black, we expect more.
Take that. Yeah. So that's cool, man. So now you've graduated Morgan State at this point, right? Yeah. Then I see that you made a transition to not really being on the electrical side, still staying within engineering, but did you make a transition to more of a traditional software engineering route?
Yeah. So while studying a major, I learned I like programming, and in particular, I became addicted to it. And I made an organization called Morgan X, and we really was trying to get more of our students interested in knowing the knowledge within programming. And I became addicted to it. I really actually enjoyed that. And upon graduating, I went to Lockheed Martin Space. I started working there within the defense industry. I really liked space. I had previous experience at NASA, and I was like, okay, this is a smooth transition.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, during COVID, I shifted to another software role, and I started working back at JP Morgan, paying homage to my previous internship.
Yeah, and back to like the connection piece, because if you probably didn't do that internship, then you wouldn't have had the end to get back in. So I noticed that when you started a new role, you actually started FastDrop around the same time. Like,
yeah,
FastDrop was spawned like probably 6, 7, 8 months ago, right? Around the same time you started a new role. Like, what made you, I guess, want to start this new venture in FastDrop? Like, what clicked in your brain during COVID? Because a lot of like businesses were created during this time, but I would love to hear like what clicked for you and like what made you want to take that leap to creating FastDrop.
Well, in college, and pretty much throughout my life, I never stated, but I always loved animals, particularly reptiles. And one of my previous internships was at Intel Capital, the venture side of Intel. And pretty much it's venture capital funds. They invest in startups. So that was always in the back of my mind. And going to HBCU, they always talk about, okay, Black businesses. And so it was like the perfect storm. For me, that was in my head. In college, I had a bunch of failed business ideas. And I had a very real problem with getting reptile food delivered to my house, particularly the type of reptile food. I have a pet snake named Shingo. And
wait, so you have one pet snake named Shango. What's your other pet snake name?
Well, I have a lizard named DeAndre. I have a lot of reptiles. Lizard named DeAndre. Another lizard named Deborah. I had another lizard, but he passed. His name was Quan. Yeah, all the animal names I have either come from Africa, Black America, and sometimes South Asia.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an ethnic household.
That's cool, man. Diversity and inclusion inside the Issa household. So in regards to like, okay, sorry to interrupt about like how the idea spawned. So you were having trouble, feeding one of your reptiles. So tell me about like how you began to like unpack the idea for FastDrop.
So if you ever heard of indie hackers, it's a bootstrapping community for people who build businesses. They say when you first get started with trying to build your own business, always try to solve a problem that you have. It's easy. You have the problem, so you know the problem exists. My problem was I didn't have a car. All the reptile shops that sold live feeder rodents were far away from me in Atlanta. They were either an hour away or in the outskirts. And that made it, one, difficult. Two, I felt that a lot of my experiences weren't the best when I went to some reptile store. So I was like, you know what? I want to cut out the middleman. How do I start getting the food delivered to me? And now I was like, I'm pretty sure other people have this problem, because I'll go on forums and like, how do you get your reptile food delivered? And unfortunately, I guess fortunately for me, it's illegal to ship rats through FedEx, UPS, or any of those things, because rats eat through boxes. They can eat through everything. They're teeth are sharp. And that's when I came up with the idea of, okay, let me make a subscription service. You get, because my snake eats once a week. So you get whatever you need. And it worked out perfectly. Snake eats once a week. I get like a rat a week, and I pay some money. And then I was like, I think someone else would want to pay for this to make this more sustainable. So then I made a little website using Card. I started using Stripe to try to get some payments in, and started reaching out to everybody. I was like, hey, are you interested? Are you interested? And then I started getting my early customers with that.
Yeah, and I saw on your page that you said this industry is a $10 billion industry.
Yeah.
As far as like the reptile food feeder industry. My question for you is like, because I personally don't know anyone that owns an actual snake or reptile. How big is the market of like, the folks that do have snakes or lizards? And is it primarily folks that have actual stores or shops, or are these people like me and you that just so happens to have a boa constrictor in the backyard? Like, what's like I guess the target audience for you, or the target market in regards to who has these reptiles?
Well, currently my target audience and market is regular consumers, people like me and you who have reptiles, and you would be quite surprised at the types of reptiles people have in their houses.
Yeah.
I assure you, it shocks me every day. I go inside a forum, I'm like, hey, look at my baby alligator. And I'm not joking, that isn't quite rare. It's pretty common to see people like, I have pet alligator. Have you ever seen the TV show, I forgot his name, what's the Tiger King?
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
I like focusing on niche. So it's not like everybody in the country you're going to find who has reptiles, but people inside the reptile community, we all know, we kind of know each other, and it spreads like that. So it's regular people. Although I do admit I should start trying to, part of my expansion plans, it would be to pet stores and grow like that as well.
Right. And so you're essentially acting as the middleman, right? For, the end consumer, and then the reptile food. So how are you able to, I guess, combat the ebbs and flows of, like, the legality piece of it? And, making sure that your service is exotic, like you mentioned, and like the luxury experience. Like, how are you able to ensure that that's going to happen for your end consumer?
Well, I have the one benefit. One, people aren't really focused on it. Unless I start making millions, people aren't going to think too much about it. It's small enough where it's like, it means nothing to folks. So no one's really focused on it. So I could give a luxury experience by, one, providing the service, and then two, using my technology background, just adding more technical features to it. So if you're a subscriber right now, you get text message alerts letting you know, hey, your delivery is coming. It should be expected now. This is what's going on. As far as staying within the legality of it, we have delivery drivers, much like Uber and Lyft, and we just load up our delivery drivers with our vendors, and we deliver it to people's houses. If anyone's watching this, we're hiring. And using that, we pretty much are starting our expansion plans and trying to grow throughout both the area of Atlanta and another hub in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, and so, like, I have like a little side question around, like, the actual feed, right? So the mice that you all are giving to the reptiles, and I think you also I saw cockroaches and like some other things that you're feeding to the reptiles. Like, what makes quality feed? Like, what makes this mice that you have and that you're shipping off better than another mice, I guess, feed that's on the market? Like, what makes your brand and your quality of your food much better and healthier for a reptile versus another one?
For me and FastDrop as our brand, we always guarantee that our reptiles will get gut-loaded food. And gut-loaded means, like, if, say, like, you have a roach or a rat, you want to make sure that they are eating healthy food options. So the roaches will be fed fruits and vegetables, primarily bananas and carrots, and same with our crickets. And our rats will be given special food as well, so that when your reptile eats it, it knows it's going to eat healthy. At the same time, we also advise and do consulting to our customers. I actually talk to my customers personally and say, hey, I think that your reptile should be eating this size rodent. And I'm not going to give a diseased rat to anyone. So we kind of screen our vendors before signing on with them. And we make sure that it's quality. We're not going to send you a rat that potentially may get your animal sick, or send you a roach that has been fed sawdust. It's going to be a healthy roach. We want everything up the chain to be good.
Yeah. And I love the idea about the subscription piece, because like you mentioned, I think you said you feed your particular reptile once a week. Is that pretty standard, for most reptiles, that they only eat once a week? So that makes it a little bit more transactional, I guess, for, the consumers in order to get the food for their reptiles?
It depends. For snakes, that is pretty much the norm. For lizards, not so much. They eat more often, every other day to every day. And generally, people who have lizards, they buy their things kind of pseudo in bulk. As far being that we currently have a model of you could get your food weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, we haven't transitioned to, okay, you'll get something every day. We aren't currently doing that, and that is not our focus, but pretty much they'll buy their feeders in bulk.
Yeah. And one thing that I did see that was your focus, man, and it's a great idea. And I hopefully people listening will take you up on this offer, is that I know that you offer FastDrop hotels, right?
Yes.
For reptiles. So when people are away, going out of town or whatever, similar to how we have dog and cat hotels, you're offering the same service through FastDrop in order for, folks to leave their reptiles with you or with someone from your team. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, with FastDrop hotels, it's new. With a theme with FastDrop, we're trying to solve everything within a suite, like a Google suite, a FastDrop suite of issues that reptile owners have. Say if you own a lizard, you may have, and it's quite common, you may have an extra tank that the lizard outgrew. And it's just lying there. It's collecting dust. You may have all the supplies for it, but you don't use it anymore. Well, I want to go on vacation, and I don't know anyone who's going to feed my lizard because they think it's a dinosaur. They think it's scary. But you love lizards. So you get to take care of a lizard, and you have extra space already that is not being used. You can make some money from it, and you still get to interact with new and different animals throughout the various time you're hosting
Airbnb, basically.
Yeah. So it's Airbnb for reptiles. And I try to offer services and create services where it's underutilized. No one really thinks about doing it, or for some reason, it's not going to be, the market isn't served.
Right. And like you mentioned, like you find actual need that you need, and you actually make it a product, which are mostly, the successful businesses out there. So I know you're in Atlanta primarily right now. Heard you mention Phoenix a little bit. Where else are you looking to take this? As far as like when you're looking for drivers, I know you said you're looking for drivers in Atlanta. So anybody in Atlanta that wants to drive for FastDrop, hit Issa up. But in regards to the other cities, where else do you plan to take FastDrop? Next outside of Atlanta and Phoenix?
To be honest, I want to hit places where I have connections and it's easier for me to expand. So of course, Baltimore, the Maryland, Virginia area, expand throughout the South because of sparse networks, and then proceed forward throughout the continental United States. And that's for now short-term and long-term plans. But to be frank with you, I want FastDrop in some type of way to be worldwide. I've paying homage to my experiences internationally. What we have is a nascent market within the U.S. as far as exotic animals, but the $10 billion mark to $100 billion dollars is a worldwide estimate. And similar to Stripe, they're trying to grow the economy of businesses. They want to make more money by helping other people make more money. Right. Well, with FastDrop, we want to grow what people can make money with. You can make money raising rats now. You can make money raising insects now. You can make money using your spare enclosures. So it may encourage other people to keep growing, and this may spiral not just here, but outside of the States. And for me particularly, I am focused on Rwanda right now, just due to the changes of government and policies there. Yeah,
and that's an amazing idea. Just making it like making people like me able to like use your platform to make a little side money essentially, and just kind of using your platform as a holistic view versus just being a delivery platform. You're trying to be more than that. You're trying to be a logistics platform. You're trying to be, help with independent contractors, all those things. You're trying to do more than just this one thing and not be boxed in. So I really appreciate that about your business. I think that's what may lead to your success for sure.
I hope so.
Yeah, for sure. And so in regards to just like a little fun question, like how did you come up with the name FastDrop? What were you doing? Did you have like a board that you were just kind of writing all these different ideas on? Like, what was like kind of your thought process in creating FastDrop, and then how did you come up with the name?
FastDrop, to be honest, it came from a bit of laziness. The original idea was a pivot. I, while traveling, wanted to build a service that I could store my bags in someone's house or apartment while I'm exploring around a new city. So I remember one day I had a day layover in LA. I didn't really need to buy an Airbnb. I just needed a place to store my bags so I could walk around. But there was nothing out there from that. And that idea didn't really take off. And I started focusing more on niches. But I already kind of bought the domain name and everything else. And I was like, you know what? People accept the name.
Yeah.
When you hear Google, Google's actually a number. It makes no sense that it's the name of a search engine.
Right,
so
right.
It will become synonymous.
No, that makes sense. And it makes sense with what you're doing. FastDrop, like snakes are fast. Like,
yeah.
So it all goes
off. You drop your pet lizard off, drops.
Right. No, that makes sense. I think that's a great name, man. And so in regards to the question I have for you around, what do you think is one of the things, if you can just name one thing that has led to your success now, or that you think will lead to your future success, what do you think that is? Like a quality of you, a personality trait, whatever the case may be. What do you think that one thing is that will lead to your success?
For me, I really think that it's, I don't take myself so seriously in a bit. Every single event, I will just go, I'm ignorant. It's nothing for me to learn. Oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. Or I don't know enough. So and because of that, I'm like, let me go out and try things. Let me experiment, because hey, it's not that serious. Worst thing that can happen is I fail and over and over and over again. But as long as I keep going, something's going to work out. So I got the engineering degree.
Right. And so the contrary to that question, what is one thing that you think you need to improve on? Like you absolutely need to improve on in order for you to hit your vision in regards to FastDrop. What would that one thing be for you?
To be honest, and it's a hard task currently, but I need to learn faster and learn more efficiently. It's one thing to have failures to pick yourself up, but it's another thing to just sometimes avoid certain failures. Certain things, it would have accelerated my growth faster if I just followed it sooner or knew about it sooner. Give an example. I used to believe that to start a company, particularly a tech company, you need to be an awesome programmer. All of my products are built pretty much without code, minimum code. If I knew that years ago, I would have started building things a lot sooner. I would have been at a different point now than I am. So for me, I feel like I just need to learn faster and learn more efficient ways to do things.
Right. And just talk about that a little bit more. The fact that, just reiterate that to everyone watching that has these app ideas or tech ideas that they've been, sitting on for years because they don't know an engineer, or they don't know how to code in Objective-C. They don't know how to code in Swift, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, halted them on making progress. So you're saying you don't have to know everything in regards to coding in order to create something.
I would argue you don't have to know anything. The technology has advanced now where you can make $1 in the internet not knowing much. A lot of what makes people money, in my experience, is just the guts to go talk to someone and just sell your idea. The very first iteration of FastDrop was a one-page, ugly, I might add, website. Like what you see now as FastDrop.io is not the very beginning product, and people paid for that. I have no idea what was going through their mind, but they paid for it, trusted me with their money, and I delivered. And for a lot of people who have ideas, I think from what I've seen is we complicate things too much. We make it like, oh, it has to be this has to be expansive, it has to be perfect. Most people will pay just so you could get one little thing done and you could build upon that. Don't listen to yourself or other people like, oh, what if this goes wrong? Things will go wrong. And most people are actually fine with things going wrong as long as you give them what they asked for originally.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, I appreciate the time. That's it for my questions. But if you had one thing to like say, or if you want to leave people with anything, whether that's go sign up to be a driver, for the Atlanta team or whatever the case may be, like what is that thing? And just kind of allude to, how big you want to grow your company in FastDrop.
FastDrop, we're trying to take over the world and empower everyone else to make money through it. So if you have extra enclosures that you want to store animals in, please sign up on our platform. We'll make sure that you eat, we eat. Everybody gonna eat.
The reptiles eat.
Yes, reptiles gotta eat. If you need to make some extra money just driving something off, you do Uber or Lyft, sign up. We need drivers. If you want to start a business raising rats or insects, and it may be odd, but hey, money comes in odd ways, sign up. Let's talk. Reach out to me. I'm always open, down to have a conversation. Let's build new economies.
Yeah. And thank you for that, man. And so just like I like to end every single episode, I want to remind you, Issa, specifically, and I want to remind anyone else that's listening to this that, you have to trust the process, enjoy the process, love the process, because at the end of the day, you're built for this. And I know you know that you're already built for this, but I want to remind you and then anyone else watching that they're built for this. So I appreciate your time, man. And hopefully we can connect in 3 to 6 months, see how you're doing. And hopefully FastDrop has grown to be bigger than what it is now. So I appreciate your time, man.
Thank you.
Okay, peace.